Now, I didn't know this, but apparently the concept of clearing skill levels is a thing that permeates Japanese culture. I thought maybe it was just a thing reserved for Go and martial arts, that kind of stuff, but apparently it goes into other areas like jump rope, for example. I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine who grew up in Japan, and I guess whatever activity they were doing, whether it was jump roping or riding a unicycle, guess that was a thing, they had ways to prove themselves and clear different levels and rankings. And she mentioned something about becoming Meijin, a genius level. And I was like, oh, that's a term that I know about from playing Go. And it's like, somehow Go organically came up in conversation, which is rare. And she was like, oh, she like congratulated me and gave me a high five. And I was like, why are you congratulating me? And she was like, she thought I had become the Meijin in Go. And I was like, oh, no. That is a tournament reserved for professionals. And she was like, oh, and I was like, I'm too cute. And she was like, oh, Nikyu. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, you got a ways to go. And I was like, yeah, I do. You're listening to Star Point, the show about Go, for Go fans away from the board. This week, the Nongshim Cup has started. Well, I guess for you guys, it's over, I think. I don't know the schedule exactly. I haven't been keeping up with Go news as much lately, but the Nongshim Cup is my favorite cup of all the world major tournaments because it is a team showdown between the three major kingdoms of Go, Korea, Japan, and China. And each team gets 5 of their best players, and whoever wins gets to keep playing, and then whoever loses is knocked out of their team. And so it's like each country has 5 lives. And Japan is down to their last player, Shibano Torimaru, and China's She Hao has been on a roll. And so this is like a pretty long tournament because it's held in, I think, 3 separate events. And this is the third and final event where we'll find out who the winner of the Nongshim Cup is. By the way, if you can recognize Nongshim as a particular manufacturer of ramen noodles, like the Shin Ramen Cup, that is the same Nongshim that it is referring to. But anyway, Shibano Torimaru played against She Hao, and as a last effort for Japan, Shibano Torimaru beats She Hao, knocking him out of the Chinese team. So China is down to 2 players, and then Shibano Torimaru is holding the last flame alive for Team Japan and will face Korea. Has faced Korea by the time you guys listen to it. I don't know the result yet, but pretty exciting. I think it's I love the format of the tournament. It's really cool. I used to actually play table tennis with my friends like this, kind of, where we would have teams and people would get knocked out, and the person who knocked out the other person would get to play on. Except the only thing is that we had one player who also is the Don player friend, one of the Don player friends that I have. He's the best at table tennis as well. So when we play, we basically try to beat him like 5v1 or whatever, however many people we have. And it's a lot of fun. But I like these little fun tournament formats that have these knockouts and this kind of team energy to it. Because Go is a 1v1 game, which is beautiful in and of itself. But it's really cool to have some kind of team aspect in any game, I think. It makes things a little like more higher stakes. Now, one thing about the way pro games are broadcast nowadays, I'm raving about the Nongshim Cup, but one thing that I do like to do from time to time is go on YouTube and scour the tubes for some older broadcast Go professional games, like say from the 80s. And I was doing this the other day, and I found a game between Chonyan and Fujisawa Hideyuki. So this is a Korean player, Chonyan, who is a legend. I think basically one of the biggest legends in Korean Go, the one who kind of sparked it. He taught Lee Chang-ho, and was taught by Fujisawa Hideyuki, his opponent. And so this was an interesting match to watch from between a student and a master. And I noticed so many different things about the way they used to broadcast Go games and the way they broadcast them now. I think there's so much that is lost in the way that they are currently broadcasting professional games that I really miss. Although I never was a watcher of professional games in the 80s, I wasn't around. There's a hint as to what my age is. But in any case, I really like the amount of atmosphere in the professional broadcast of that time. They give shots of the players' expressions. They show the Go board at an angle. They show the room. They have the camera switching back and forth. With the modern games, they just have kind of a static shot of the board, super top down and clean. Very easy to read. I guess that's the pro. And then little tiny squares for the professional players' faces. And sometimes they're not even live footage of the professional players. They're like maybe placeholder images. And I don't know. When I watch a pro game, I want to feel all of that. I want to see the room. I want to see how their body posture is while they're playing. I want to see the intensity of how much they're thinking. In the Chonyeon versus Fujisawa game, there's so much more to it. They're wearing suits. They're leaning over to one side. They're on a floor, Goban, sitting on little cushions, and Fujisawa is smoking a little cigarette, and that's not something that I would want to bring back, but there's so much detail in the environment that I really enjoyed. And then on top of that, you have the classic film grain from back then, and then you have the moderators in the background. You can see what's going on. I felt like I was there. Whereas the current pro games, it feels so much more detached. I feel like I'm being shown the SGF file of the pro match, and that's it, right? And there's some AI analysis on the side, which is, it can be good too, but the thing is, before, the commentary style was also different. So currently, what you do is they just kind of notice the AI bar moving up and down, and then they do this overlay on top of the currently played professional game, which is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I want to see the game sometimes for myself. I want to just watch what's happening on the board between the two professionals without distraction. And sometimes when the commentator goes over the variations on top of what I'm watching, I can't really figure out what's actually happening on the board. Obviously, sometimes there are moments where I do appreciate that exposition, but for the most part, I don't like it when the stones are digitally overlaid on top of what I'm trying to watch. And I think this is an option that, I don't know why modern sports don't adopt this, but basically what I think should happen is whenever you're watching whatever sport you're watching, you should be able to turn off commentary and just watch the sport without any voices talking over. But I guess, there's sponsors and things like that, but I don't know. It's just I feel like now with technology, we should be able to have some options when we watch professional games of any kind. And so that's one thing that's super different. Back then, they didn't have this technology to do the digital overlays, which has its benefits. Obviously, it's very quick. You can spit out variations really quick and then clear the board and then do another variation. But what they used to do is they had a couple people off to the side with a magnetic board that is oriented vertically so that the audience could see, and then they would grab these magnetic Go stones, oversized stones, obviously, and they would just try to recreate the game that they saw the professionals playing and commentate through playing variations. And they had two commentators, one main commentator who is an esteemed professional of some sort, and then a partner, color commentator, who asks questions, provides some perspective, and helps with the variations. Obviously, they have to be somewhat experienced in Go as well. They can't just be any schmuck down the road. And I like that. I like the switching of the camera from the main game to the commentary. I'd rather have those things separate rather than having the overlay constantly blocking my view of the main game. What I would really like is basically two cameras I can switch between and just go from one to the other, and so I can have that flexibility. But I prefer the older way, and I know that they may be a little slower to play out the variations and discuss things, but right now the professionals, they just kind of you don't even know what they look like. The commentary people, there's just voices that just voice over whatever game is being played. And I really like the personality, watching the personality of the commentators and the expressions that they have, little mannerisms. I thought that was so much more lively. And I don't know, that's what I prefer. I prefer the older way of doing things. Another thing that I noticed while watching this game, well, maybe it's not something that I noticed, but something that I thought about, is that this is so pre-AI that AI is not even a concept. It's so pre-AI that the professionals who are playing this are really at the frontier of Go. They have no higher being to compare themselves to. And I'm just imagining the current modern professionals, while they're playing the game, thinking thoughts like, where's the blue move? What would AlphaGo play? What would CataGo play? Things like, I think that even amateur players, when they play Go nowadays, a lot of us think, I know AI wouldn't like this move, but I'm going to play it because I like this move. And those thoughts would never have crossed the minds of these older Go professionals. And with that mentality in mind, I think that they saw the game a little differently. Maybe they thought, instead of what would AlphaGo do, maybe they thought, what would Shusaku do? So reaching backwards towards the highest wisdom that they saw in history among the Go players. And I saw them staring at the board, and I'm just imagining all these things that they're thinking, right? Because I don't know what they're thinking. But I'm looking at their faces, and I'm looking at how much they pause between the moves and contemplate what's on the board. And I see this clarity and this purity of thought that I was able to just extract as inspiration from watching this game. And a theme came to my mind, is that what they're experiencing while they're contemplating their moves is this respect for the game. They look at the board and they see that they have a responsibility to play a good game, and they treat it with care and respect. And that is one of the reasons why they became professionals, is because of how much care that they put into the game. And it really made me look at myself and think, I really have got a lack of respect for the game of Go. I often open my phone in between activities and say, open a correspondence game and think, oh, this move is good enough. I'm a little too lazy to come up with anything better. I probably can't come up with anything better if I tried anyway. I play the move and I move on with my day, not really giving it too much thought. And I thought, these professionals I'm watching, they would never treat this game this way. They would respect the moves. They would spend the time to be thorough and careful with every move that they played, which is what they were doing on the video that I saw. And then so when I opened up the correspondence game that I was playing after that, I immediately saw the board differently. And I felt like I improved like instantly. Have you ever felt like you've instantly improved? Maybe it's not like a material improvement where I can actually measure it, but I really felt in my being that seeing the game that way instantly improved the quality of move that I played in that moment. I looked at things with more care, and by respecting the game, I felt like I was a better Go player. And I thought, maybe that's something that I can introduce or reintroduce into my game. You know, In the first episode of Starpoint, I talked about my experience playing with a professional player, Osawa Kenro, a Japanese player who was visiting LA to do a little Go activity promotion. And he did some simultaneous games, he did some reviews. There were some really fun things. It was a great experience. If you can go back to that first episode if you want to hear a recap of that. But a couple of things I left out of that episode I might want to mention today is there was a little section that he introduced to us about Go etiquette and how to treat your Go stones and equipments and how to play the game with respect. And he taught us before the game, you need to say onegaishimasu, which is a traditional greeting that you say in Japan before every game. And I thought, okay, well, he's Japanese, of course, that's what he's gonna introduce and promote. And then he said something that kind of made me cock my head a little bit. He said that you shouldn't put things on the Go board that are not Go stones. And I thought, what do you mean? It's just a Go board. Like, you just put whatever you want on it. It's, like, why are you telling us? I understand you're a professional player, but maybe it's a little too much to tell us how we should be treating our Go equipment. He said things like, don't put your paper on it and write on it. And I kind of I took it with a grain of salt. I didn't really take it too seriously. I thought maybe okay, that's a little much for me, right? It's at the end of the day, look, I like Go and I love Go, but it's just a game. And funnily enough, I ended up not putting things on Go boards after that, even though I kind of had this skeptical vibe about it. It just kind of got to me, maybe I don't want to put things on my Go board that are not the Go stones. And it really I don't know why I started following that, but now what I'm realizing is that in telling us how to treat the Go board and how we should greet each other before the game and how to treat the stones and things like that, it was teaching us about the respect that is built into the culture of Go. And I think a lot of us can appreciate that. In America, we do thank each other for games, and we don't necessarily say onegaishimasu every time, right? That's not something that we necessarily do. But a lot of people like to say thank you for the game, and a lot of people have this concept that Go is a game where we should respect one another. And I think that comes from the fact that we're respecting the roots of the game and the fact that Japan spread the game to many countries and was the prime evangelist country that spread the game of Go. It really did influence how we see the game. And when you think about it, there's so many things like you shouldn't rattle stones, you shouldn't slam stones down, and there are many things that are very Japanese and being polite and things like that are just baked into the culture. And maybe not all of us follow every single one of those, but it is very prominent, and I think there may be something to that, and it may be something related to how Japan was the dominant force in Go for a very, very long time, for most of history, actually. And I think maybe putting that respect for the game and taking the game seriously in that way can really help you approach the game with the right attitude. And it's not just about all the etiquette around the game. The game is about respect as well. The game itself, inside and on the board. You have to respect thickness and influence, or you'll learn that lesson really quickly. It's almost like respecting wildlife, where if you see a wild animal, there's a certain way to treat it with respect, keeping your distance, understanding that it has certain reactions, and it can be dangerous if you don't treat it with care. Same thing on the Go board. If you have certain situations on the Go board, you need to respect certain situations, but also know when to stand your ground. I feel like the theme of respect goes from one end of Go to the other end of Go, and it permeates everything. I think that's a big reason why maybe a lot of people like Go as well. The fact that this game is all about respect and being proper, and you're rewarded for that, and being able to take that value and imbue it into your game. It actually can help you. I feel like I haven't been doing that as much lately. I haven't been giving Go the respect. I kind of pull out my phone, do my Tsumego before I sleep, and if the Tsumego is too hard, I just close my app and I give up on it. I don't really give it the respect that I should give it. And maybe that's one reason why I'm not getting better. So I want to see if I can try to build up my respect for Go and treat the game with more respect as I continue my journey. A related topic to respect is the concept of patience. And everybody knows that patience is crucial in Go. And I think it's a very related concept, because if you respect something, you will have the patience for it. And it's not just Go, but a lot of crafts require a high amount of patience and attention to detail from the beginning all the way to the end. That's what Go is like. You have to pay attention and be patient from the beginning all the way to the end. Over the past few months, I've taken up a new hobby, leathercraft, and it's basically a test of patience, and all my flaws from Go are coming out in leathercraft as well. You have to pay attention to every stitch and be patient about every step of the process. You can't rush anything. You have to be patient about casing your leather, which is like, or wetting it and letting it dry. Whenever you glue your leather, you got to make sure you have the right drying times as well. You have to be patient about sanding it. And every step has this test of patience built into it. And you can screw up any one of those tests and it'll screw up your entire project. And that's like Go, because from the beginning to the end, you can have patience for 80% of the game, but then the 20% of the game where you don't have patience, it's going to basically make you lose. I've heard this saying from multiple people, professionals, and they're saying that you have to put your soul into every stone. That's very, very difficult to do. And I don't know if I can ever get to the point where I can comfortably say that I can put my soul into every stone. But that is something I think it is something to strive for. Because a lot of us think that basically there are some key important moves and there are a lot of other moves that are not so important. But to put your soul and being into every stone is to respect every move that is played on the board. I'm reminded of this quote from Hikaru no Go. I don't have it directly word for word, but there's a moment where people are kind of sizing each other up in front of the Meijin, Akira Toya's father. And Akira Toya's father, who is just basically the best player in the nation at the time, says something very humble and says that he treats everyone, including all the weak players, as a worthy opponent who can possibly beat him. Basically, he's giving respect to every opponent that he faces. And in that way, he's respecting the entire game of Go. And I think that's a mark of a wise and strong player. If somebody, whether you're playing against a DDK or a high Dan player, if you give them the same amount of respect as you play, I think you can go far with your game. Now, this whole weaker, stronger player thing also plays into this concept of respect. Weaker players kind of respect stronger players in general. Strong players generally demand a certain amount of respect. Their opinions matter because they know more about the game, and so that what they say and teach is valuable. And if you don't respect the stronger players, you're probably not going to get better because you're not going to be listening to their advice and you won't learn much because, well, the stronger players got there for a reason. But maybe that's why so many of us try to become better at Go, because we're searching for this respect that strong players seem to get. Maybe that's why a lot of us really, really, really want to get to Dawn level, or high Dawn level, or to be a professional, because they see that strong players gain a certain level of respect from Go players. Maybe that's somewhat of a valid reason to pursue the game, but in my opinion, it's not something that you can really prevent in yourself sometimes, because we all have our desires, and we're not always in control of our desires. But I think a more noble and better pursuit is to pursue the beauty of the game and the enjoyment and the fun of the game. And through that, getting to higher levels, I think is the best way to approach the game. I'm thinking about how to respect this game more. And what comes to mind is when you have a conversation with someone and you're trying to be a good listener. The things that you can do with this person is make eye contact, repeat what they're saying, and make sure you're not doing anything else while you're having this conversation. It's not as ideal if you're having a conversation with someone and they're on their phone, they're talking to other people, they're checking their email, and you're trying to get you're trying to get a rapport going, but you can't really seem to do it because they're not really giving you the attention. And so I think it's similar with Go and training for Go. I don't really, I'm not a good listener when I'm looking at how to be a better Go player. I kind of just put Go as this in-between activity sometimes with my correspondence games, with my Sumega problems. I don't really give dedicated time to it where I am listening, right? I don't face the problem as its own activity. I just put it in between my other activities. So I'm not really giving it the right amount of respect that I should be giving it. And so that's something that I can definitely work on in the future. It's time for the DDK Advice Corner. And the tip of the day is, don't try to win by taking the center. There's a proverb that goes like, there's no points in the center. I saw a game where somebody was placing a lot of their stones by trying to surround the center because it looked very juicy. And especially to DDKs, especially to me when I was a DDK and starting out, the center looked very juicy in terms of territory, but it doesn't work. It's so hard to contain it and keep the points. It's so easy to poke a hole in it. It's like, have you ever read Catcher in the Rye? The Catcher in the Rye example in the novel, the actual title example, is when Calden Holefield has a dream about trying to save children, and the children are running around in separate directions in the rye, and he can't corral them all and save them all before they fall off the edge. And that's what trying to win by taking the center is like. You're trying to seal off every single hole all around, and eventually one thing's going to poke through and just take all those points away. So instead of doing that, look more for territory along the corners and sides. If you're finding yourself doing a lot of center corralling and losing because of that, and you can't help it, try to think of yourself as a little mole digging around for territory in the third and fourth lines, scooping under and trying to get into that subterranean area. So that's the DDK Advice Corner tip of the day. Don't try to win by taking the center. And now it's time for listener mail. Dusty writes, I enjoyed listening to you talk about your equipment, and it got me thinking about my own. I believe I also have the same travel set from Yellow Mountain Imports, and your assessment is spot on. Cool idea that is executed poorly. On the other hand, I also have a 1-inch thick bamboo board and bamboo board and bowls with Yunzi stones from Yellow Mountain Imports, and I could not be happier with this set. It is my workhorse, and I've had it for nearly 10 years. It's been through many moves with me and has lots of wear and tear to show for its hard work over the years. You know, Dusty, I've been looking for that Yunzi set. I don't know if they still sell it at Yellow Mountain Imports. Their stock seems to come and go. And I've also never seen the actual bamboo board and set. I'm curious how you like it. I mean, I guess you do like it. You told me just now. But I'm curious about the quality of, like, what does it feel like? Does it, make a different sound than other types of wood? Is it lighter than other types of wood? I'm curious about that. Continuing on, a unique piece of Go equipment that I own and you may be interested to hear about is a pocket-sized travel board that I made out of a Lego base plate and a bunch of black and white Lego studs for stones. I cut down the base plate to 19 by 19 pegs and store the stones in nicotine pouch containers. The result is a perfectly portable tiny Go set. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great idea. Honestly, the only thing is, like, I wonder how much you'd have to get used to the intersections being little circles instead of a grid of lines with intersections. But that's pretty cool. I like that idea. Being Legos, once the stones are placed, they are not easily disturbed. This is great for car rides, plane rides, etc., but also means that taking captured stones off the board and post-game cleanup are a bit of a pain. Oh yeah, that's not something I would have thought of before making that. However, since I don't have too many friends or family that play, it is usually used as a desk decoration with one of my current OGS correspondence games on it, and I enjoy this use as well. Hope you are well. Dusty from Go Times, Paduk Magazine. Thanks for writing in, Dusty. I like that makeshift Go board that you made out of Lego. If I come across a good base plate and some black and white Lego pieces, I'll definitely try that. Thanks for writing in. Night Walker writes, I noticed you left out your library of books as equipment, but I like your idea of building a stash to eventually support/start a club or class. I borrow some stuff for teaching, but I have gotten some things of my own. Set of demo board, magnetic stones, reversible black and white stones that I store in a chalk pouch for rock climbing. That's cool. I'm borrowing a 9x9 demo board that I can attach to magnetic surfaces. I've written before of my 7x7 boards I use to introduce the game to new people. The other thing that's different I include with my Go equipment is a mount for my cell phone. I've used it to record my games during tournaments so that I can review them later without distracting myself by trying to manually record during the game. Oh, right. So that is definitely a nice piece of Go equipment to have sometimes. If you have a table clamp for your phone, you can point the phone down at the board, and you can use either time-lapse cameras, or you can use that one app. I forgot the name of it. But there's an app out there where it takes a photo. Or it doesn't take a photo, it's like it intelligently captures your board and records an SGF for you. Oh, by the way, about the thing about my library of books as equipment, yeah, I left it out because I did a whole episode on the books a while back, so if you want to know about what books I have, there's plenty of talking about that in that episode. And because I know it's the next questions, AC Player is the app I was using to automatically record the SGF. Oh, so the spelling of that is AHQ Player. That's not the app that I was thinking of, though. But once in a while, it will record things in the wrong order or get confused, possibly due to lighting issues. So I'm switching to just using Open Camera to record low bitrate /quality /frame rate video to review afterwards. Okay, I didn't know there's another app that does that. Interesting. I wonder if it's because the one that I tried was pretty great. I didn't actually use it at like a tournament or anything to test it fully, but the game I was playing out on my own, it was very accurate. And then I think it also had, I gotta look this up now, so that I'm not just like advertising this app and then not telling you where it's from. Okay, it's called Paduk Cap, BADUK space CAP, and I believe it's on iOS and Android. And you basically just drag the corners of this grid onto your Go board, and it just automatically captures it. You got to pay for it, I think. I don't know how much it is because I bought it, and the price is not displaying for me anymore, but I don't think it was very expensive at all, and totally worth it if that's something that you're in the market for. Padauk cap. So if you want to try that one, Nightwalker, that one is pretty good, I think. Continuing, one thing I've used before but don't own myself is a set of white and black flat soccer cones that we would tape out an area of square cement tiles and teach/demo that way. What are soccer cones? Are those like the flat-ish kind of orange pylon things? I've been thinking of getting my own or convince the club to get, but I don't know how often I'd be able to find an area to set it up. They also had an extended grabbing arms, so we didn't have to bend over and pick them up all day. Oh, very interesting. So like a life-size kind of Go. The newest pseudo-goat item I've gotten was recommended to me at a board gaming convention. It's the game Go Cane, a 6-player smuggling game that uses Go rules to build your smuggling network. I had to find a copy on eBay, but as a Go enthusiast, I had to have it, and I'm hoping to get a chance to try it with more people at the next Go Congress. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? There's a game called Go Cane? Very interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up to see what that looks like. Thanks for writing in, Nightwalker. And then Wampy writes, no spirit attached to that board your dad brought home as a kid? Sad face. Fortunately, I was not able to see the blood stains on it, if there was. Just pretty clean, normal looking Go board. Maybe the spirit didn't want me as its host, so unfortunately, no. Andy G2G writes, that joke was actually elite. Nice one. Thank you. Thank you. Camille Le Gorille says, Le Gorille says, thank you. The next edition of Kifu will be in English for sure, winky face. This, I assume, is Camille Levesque, who has the Stoned on the Goban store, which has the awesome Kifu design. So thanks for... I never know who's listening to Starpoint. It's pretty cool. Deep Emulsion writes, I love that Kifu book design, and I actually ended up hand-painting a fan of that design. Yes, it's a great design, isn't it? The octopus one. Hand-painting a fan of it, though, that sounds difficult. But really cool if you're able to pull it off. Thanks for writing in. Deep Emulsion. Sadaharu writes, great that you managed to catch a full game of Padauk TV. Very soon you will fall into the trap of constantly looking out for Padauk TV streams. Yeah, I've actually already started looking more for them. Although sometimes I'm just not patient enough. I don't respect the game enough sometimes to sit down and watch it. But I do like the idea of watching it more often, so I'll definitely keep an eye out. For Go equipments, I've already reached the stage that I don't really care what equipments I use, as I do my Go stuff mostly on my PC now. In competitions, I still prefer double convex stones to single convex stones. Plastic stones are a no-no, though some competitions still use them. The quality of the stones definitely affects my mood, which may or may not affect my performance. Yes, I definitely... Oh my goodness. If you listen to the my first Go tournament episode, the first game I ever played was with these tiny plastic stones that like wobbled on a curling Go mat, and it just oh man, it just did not feel right. It really did not. And it's important to have some level of quality for your stones, at least some weight to them, at least a board that doesn't curl up on its edges, and I think it does possibly affect performance. I do think also that it's the newer players who are more about the equipment and really like, ooh, wow, shiny stones. And then the people who actually like the game of Go, they just want to look at the game. And that's probably why you're so strong. Thanks for writing in, Sadaharu. The question of the week this week is, do you feel like you have a level of respect for the game? Do you respect the game enough? Or is it just a game? You don't really need to take it so seriously. Do you think that attitude, whatever attitude you have, has affected your results? If you want to share your thoughts on that question, or if you have a Go story to share or have a question of your own you want to ask me, you can comment on YouTube or the Reddit post for this episode, or you can email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very, very special thank you to James B. and Tristan for supporting Starpoint. If you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to ko-fi.com/starpointpaduk. That's ko-fi.com. Or you could go to the merch site. That's store.starpointpaduk.com. What's black and white and red all over? A well-studied game of Go. Thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.